Welcome my friends, welcome back to Project TAS. If you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you've watched any of my previous videos, thank you for returning to my channel. Today we're doing another Blake 7 episode review from Season 2. As always, I will point out that this review will inevitably touch upon certain plot elements of this episode, and may even reveal developments for the series of Blake 7 as a whole. So if you haven't seen this episode or anything else in terms of Blake 7, a huge spoiler alert is in order in case you wish to do a bit of Blake 7 catch-up prior to watching this episode. You have been warned. Right, let's get to it, shall we? The debut episode where Chris Boucher goes from script editor to actually getting his name on the primary writing credit. He had already worked on Doctor Who, where Terry Nation of course made a significant contribution in the form of the Daleks. However, with all respect to the creator of Blake 7, an injection of fresh perspective and ideas was required after Nation had been carrying the weight of creativity for 14 episodes in a row, and that perspective is supplied by Mr. Boucher. The first of his 9 episodes, and I will mention that he was script editor on every episode of Blake 7, so his contribution goes far beyond the episodes he wrote, Shadow is fairly representative of the type of story Boucher would submit. We're plunged into a random scene, not automatically with our heroes, but rather a preview or taste of what this week's adventure will be about. The characters won't reveal much, we as the audience will work it out as we go on. The fact that this opening scene will usually involve characters we haven't seen before and will not see again after this episode is no bad thing. One thing Boucher does well, and that's write a good character. Clever casting of course plays its part as well, but when the writing is this good, it's much easier for the actors to sink their teeth into the role. The 3 we initially meet are all intriguing. Largo, Hannah and Beck, each with their own interests and goals in the story. Some are ambitious, some are for change, some are just for the next hit. Other characters like the Enforcer and the Chancellor, albeit seen much less, are still noticeable and important to the story and are not surplus. Speaking of characters, it's good that our heroes benefit from the Boucher treatment as well. While Jenna and Callie would find themselves very much confined to the Liberator during this season, Boucher gives both ladies a lot more to do, and Blake, Avon and Villa stand out as they do every time. What I'm most happy about with is the fact that Gan actually comes across with a lot more purpose. His calm but direct objection to what would become a growing fanaticism in Blake is refreshing. He had always been at Blake's side from the beginning, when the cause was just and the methods honourable. Now Blake is revising the game plan somewhat. We see that Gan does have his own perceptions and opinions, and is not just blindly following Blake here, there and everywhere. I'm also glad to see him in charge of the Liberator. He is obviously fourth in command after Blake, Avon and Jenna, albeit Villa won't listen to anything Gan tells him. Going back to Blake's fanaticism, this was really the first time it came to the forefront. He is finally believing his own celebrity, smoking his own celebrity. I can't say I blame him, it has been very much a winning streak for Blake and the Liberator crew thus far. He probably thinks he can do anything, and as such starts to do just that. The ends justify whatever means Blake can come up with. Use a criminal organisation for his own ends? He's Blake. If he does it, that means it's not wrong. And where have we heard that before, or something similar? Absolute power corrupting absolutely. The fact that this would come back to bite Blake and his followers, quite literally the pressure point, it's another intriguing aspect that starts to take shape in Season 2. The actual story is perhaps a little dated. Every series that might have the kids watching would do a drugs are bad episode during the late 70s and 80s, but it serves Shadow perfectly well and doesn't go anywhere near the realms of preaching. It manages to get its message across through the pale, almost death makeup, if you will, of Hannah and Beck, and the drab clothing that adorns their skinny bodies, the death of one of their friends, or relatives maybe, in PT, and the fact that Hannah is already dead through her use of the drug. Again, it takes a minimal effort to remind you what drugs and addiction can do, without having to be that type of story. Also, the way the administration uses addicts to their own purposes, possibly mirroring the way that addicts are looked down upon by society, as not really people to concern ourselves with. They are the makers of their own sorrow, and their lifestyle is an illegal one, which usually leads to additional criminal activity. Why should we care about such people? But of course, it is never ever as simple as that. And the episode does a superb job of both having Hannah as a sympathetic character, one we do not want to see die towards the end as she does, but also one who still cannot look past Shadow, her next fix. As she says, it's all she has. Although, looking at her brother for a minute, I couldn't work out if Beck was either a former addict who had managed to get off Shadow but still retained the rather unhealthy complexion, or if he was wearing makeup to fool others into thinking he's an addict. Or is this the natural complexion for Hannah and Beck and their people? Are they from a different planet? It's never really explained. It doesn't need to be, the episode isn't harmed by it, but I wouldn't mind finding out all the same. Having been looking at this episode a little more thoroughly, I have actually started to notice that Largo and his henchmen have somewhat pale complexions as well, making me wonder if they are all meant to be part of the same species. The evidence for this would be strengthened by that yellow stuff that's coming out of Largo's mouth. I'd always assumed he'd been poisoned by his guard, hence why he was dead, but I'm now wondering, is this meant to be his species' blood coming out of his mouth? Quite possible that these are aliens or non-humans or changed humans. As I mentioned before, it's never really made properly obvious in the episode, but I find it interesting that this may be another metaphor for the effect of drugs, whether you're the addict or whether you're the dealer, or whether you have any sort of involvement in it at all. It affects you in a negative way. And this line by the enforcer furthers the metaphor of addiction, not just of drugs, but of power and control.
Largo wants you to. Very badly.
And could this reflect Blake's own addiction to his belief in who and what he is, addicted to what he thinks he must and will achieve, hence why he will treat everyone how he wants, so long as they do what he needs them to do? The fact that the Terra Nostra are run by the Federation, does this deepen the metaphor as to how many people are addicted? And does this change what the addiction is about? Is it really about drugs? Is it really about Shadow? Or is it more about an obsession to do with power and control and achieving something that is unachievable, even if your own ego and fanaticism believes that you will? I also like the fact that Blake sets up a possible future appearance for Beck and for Space City, albeit it's one that is never realised. I mean, yes, we have to overlook the fact that Blake forces Beck to go back to Space City against his will, and all but tells him that he must fight against the administration, be that the Terra Nostra or the Federation, and he has 3 years to do something that'll impress Blake. But while it may put Beck in a position he does not want to be in, it still tried to open a new path, something we could come back to depending on how long the series lasted. This attitude and approach to the bigger picture of Blake 7 universe by Chris Boucher, it was good to see, especially since Terry Nation appeared to be running on empty towards the end of Series 1. It also shows how widespread Blake is trying to make his influence felt, which also reflects the influence of the Federation and the fact they control the Terra Nostra. While the Federation very much has its proverbial finger in the Space City pie, Blake has very much stuck a knife in and taken a slice out, and through Beck he's trying to ensure the battle on this front continues for the foreseeable. Having mentioned what I couldn't shut up about for the last few Season 1 Blake 7 reviews, the fact that Mr. Nation was combining multiple unrelated plots to make up only a few episodes, it's funny to see Season 2 take off with such an energetic feeling and an intelligent and intriguing approach to the storylines. Makes one wonder what the problem was in finishing off Season 1, if this is what they can do. The plot twist is actually a subtle 2 or 3 lines at the end of the episode, but still wraps things up rather well.
Two sides of the same power, the same men of power.
The only weak point is the Aurak moon disk aliens from another dimension plot strand. It has nothing to do with the primary plot, and neither serves it nor interacts with it. It is simply there, and is resolved with minimal effort. I actually quite like the snazzy camera work, and despite the production level, the moon disks are an interesting concept in terms of aliens. It's just a pity it didn't have more relevance to the episode, or maybe the series. Could these aliens have been related to the alien invasion at the end of Season 2, perhaps? Perhaps not. An excellent episode, with everyone firing on all cylinders. The possessed Aurak aspect felt a little redundant, but it more than earns the 3 out of 4 stars I'm giving it. That concludes my review for Shadow. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like this video, please share this video, please subscribe to my channel, and please feel free to check out my other Blake 7 episode reviews. And I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the very nice thing you said about my IQ.
That is too small a thing to thank me for.
He'll pay for that.